One small step for woman, one giant leap for mankind. Individual movements do not occur in a vacuum, waves of change sweeping globally like an ocean of unchanged anger, as women are erased from the past over and over again. Like if the feminine abilities were developed to the same degree as those of a male, her maternal organs would suffer and we should have a repulsive and useless hybrid. A German scientist, P.J. Mobius, said, speaking about German and American women and females in general in 1907, like equality is a privilege, not a right. Like widows should engage in sati and be obedient, because the happiness of someone valued as an object is not necessary. Trying to hold back the inevitable, feathers were packed in between the crevices of misogyny and sexism, in ambivalent views of men of family values. Women who tried to educate themselves and escape the bleeding ink that threatened to smother their lives were disobedient. Hypocrisy of the family system appeared in full force, and the woman question did not disappear. Sister Nivedita opened the door to education, and angry words rushed underfoot in Bangladesh. 5,000 angry women marched in 1913. Washington, D.C. almost bled when an angry mob tried to attack them and meet violence. When they met the Coast Guard instead, the world started to put up fences between male and female and took down walls between girls and women. Rape has stood the test of time, just like the color of pain, red, like women being taught to disrespect themselves. Women in South Asia were never anything more than vulnerable and marginalized. Tears had no effect except blurring the path to rights, so they took up a cause, participated in cultural revival, stood up for their 1920 Women's Franchise Union. In 1930, rights for women of any caste, religion, or creed were demanded. They spoke for the silent voices, demanded the female vote, grasped it in 1931, gave the bruised and the bloodied a reason to roll out of bed in the morning, illuminated the struggle 10 years before, when women in America gained the right to vote. A faded Rosie the Riveter poster reminds us 25 years of downs, being pushed, being held, ready to scream. 1945. The men come back from war. Women who trusted that they would not be relegated to the kitchen when their hands were still calloused and burnt from factory work were shoved into ovens, told that they were too weak to stand up for their own efforts. Chronologically, we've taken steps and made leaps of progress. One small step for woman, one giant leap for mankind. The 1948 Nepal Women's Association formed to create political awareness among women, woke up women with the realization that yes, this is a problem, wake up. Parallels, however, can be drawn, lines of blood and piles of pills. The sexual revolution, contraception supposed to be used for women to protect women, not the use of there must be something wrong with her if she didn't want to sleep with you past 1950. Some heroes always get remembered, but legends never die. So with a violent awakening, South Asia roused its women. The sky grew darker with the laws piled upon them. At every step, cinder block shoes became the norm, making stairways to freedom, economic, sexual, and gender equality nearly unachievable. Change started like water dropped in oil, with circles and spheres and stones breaking through the glass ceiling. Oppression stopped being a landmark on the map to success, and discrimination was the new best friend. The only position for women in the SNCC is prone, said Stokely Carmichael in 1966, proving that women were not equal in the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. The 1970s in India saw a garden of leftist Indian ideas in women's rights grow, radical ideas flourishing like weeds, fought against the dowry, pushed against the shield of cowardice and pain that hid rape. Sex and sensuality was taboo, but submission was a sociological fact like brutality. Sex determination in India was moved against, thousands of female fetuses saved and preserved. Nepal participated in the First World Conference on Women, 1975, showing at least one real step. Second-wave feminism took North America by storm, catching the end of itself by 1980 after lasting since about 20 years earlier. Reproductive rights were an unquestionable, anonymous question that pervaded the culture of hushing up sexuality and forcing family into a harsh spotlight of hypocrisy and fear surrounded by marital rape cases. Intersectional feminism suffered at the expense of quote-unquote freedom. Later, Nepal saw women of various ideologies and regions help to introduce a democratic system. Tears began to slow, faiths began to strengthen. Fetishization of women began to stop slowly but surely. The 1990s was a decade of revolutions. Sex was less taboo and used this as a starting point, firing off a gun of revelations. Women were paid 71 cents for every dollar paid to men. Black women earned 65 cents. Latinas, 54 cents. In 1992, life improves, but every step is still a war, though the quicksand grasp of misogyny is lessened. Violence towards South Asian women, while race-based, was all too senselessly gender-based, with up to 48% testifying that their male partners had shown some type of physical abuse towards them in 1998. The 2000s sent in a whiff of new air, the whispers of a broken society lingering in the footsteps of the past. Those who do not remember it are doomed to repeat it. Women kept fighting in the U.S., kept bleeding for their beliefs, stayed in and out of the kitchen when it pleased them to their own purpose, and did not forget. Still, they bled. Blood stained the floor, the hearts, the water, contaminated the shark tank of society. Some people were not so lucky. Women and girls, the line blurred now beyond recognition, were trafficked within South Asia, repeated ruined bodies, ruined lives, ruined promises, and the constant reminder of how much work it takes to ruin one life and how society manages to ruin so many at once corrodes away like a pendant on a broken chain. Domestic violence crept at the edges like mold. South Asian women suffered until somebody noticed the light going out behind the border. Intimate violence, as it was named, served only to oppress, never to push down, only to stifle and suffocate. While reproductive health improved in America, their bruises spoke for themselves louder than words. The violence was always ignored only in cause, never in effect. 2007 was over and done by the time the sun had finally set. 2015 showed that the United States was hand in hand with Iran and Sudan, still not having ratified the Convention on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, which promises to end discrimination, establish equality, and fight violence. Yet we wait, watching the hour hand tick ever closer to what we hope will balance out the scales. Still, the USA does not have paid maternity leave. Still, women in both South Asia and North America struggle to be paid more than the living wage. Still, women bleed every day, blurring the line between girls and women, igniting careless anger. Still, we wait for a change.